So we're live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mining Meets Digital. I'm your host, Umar. We've got your co-host there, Varun. Say hello, Varun.
Hey, everybody.
And, let me just run through the topic of today. So today we'll be discussing digital first strategies for the new generation of retail investors and, how, transforming how mining companies attract, engage, and convert tomorrow's investors. We've got a lovely panel here. We are waiting on a couple of guys to join. But look, I hope you guys, get a lot of value out of this. And, we will be giving 3 lucky attendees to win a digital audit from Outliers worth £5,000. And Anna will also be giving away an executive LinkedIn rebrand package today. It's designed to turn LinkedIn profile from invisible to investable. So stay tuned for details. And I'm sure a lot of you CEOs need that LinkedIn package. You would be towards the end of the live, we will be sharing how you can access the pack. Well, you know what? I'll just tell you now. So if you could just DM me or Varun, and we'll give you access to the pack. And yeah, that'll be the best way. Just pop your email in there, your number, and we will give you the pack. And it's a very comprehensive pack. Varun and myself will go through it before we get into discussions. And let's first formally introduce myself, and then Varun will go next, and then we will go into the panel, and everyone can introduce themselves. So, firstly, me, I come from a retail trading background. Started in 2011, I'd say. Really got into forex and commodities, anything that really moved. And then I was like, hey, what's this white paper? Really got the Satoshi white paper really, got me into a situation where I was like trading gold, and I was like, hey, this looks like it's going to be the new gold. So I started trading Bitcoin around 2013. So probably not as quick as Jim read the white paper, but I got there a bit later on. But yeah, through that I realized that there's a huge community here, especially in the crypto space, and that pretty much led me onto a journey of becoming a top author on TradingView. I built a 10,000 plus following on there. It's called Ride the Pig, if anyone wants to know. Funny name. From that, I co-founded multiple ventures in high growth industries, including tech to medical cannabis. I've also been part of historical policy changes, most recently in Pakistan, where I legalized medical cannabis, being a Muslim country, so that was a major thing, and industrial hemp for they're heavy reliant on cotton, so really helped them towards that. And they only legalized in 2024, and most recently I co-founded Outliers with Varun. It's a strategic growth and innovation company where we help small cap companies, particular in mining right now. We do help other industries, but we're doubling down, and you'll find out why shortly. To compete in today's capital markets, my real edge comes from blending data-driven insights with instinct shaped from trading floors, policy corridors, and boardrooms. And today I'm focused on mining because that's where the next big opportunities are emerging. Over to you, Varun.
Thanks, Umar. So, yeah, as Umar mentioned, I'm Varun. Don't let my young complexion fool you. I've been coming up to, God, now 15 years in the world of digital, shall we say, as a strategist, creative, technologist, a hobbyist. It's pretty much, ever since kindergarten, nursery, shall we say, where I created a combine harvester and got an award for it. Nice little award there. That I've always been into the notion of creating things. But on my journey, the last 15 years, type of clients I've worked with, from multiple public listed companies to private companies, include MasterCard, Lloyds Bank, Jaguar Land Rover, Cambridge University, and London Stock Exchange, to name a few. But as well as working with these large, well-known brands, over the pandemic, I just really got sunk into the whole world of startups and scale-ups, and was fortunate enough to work with a lot of founders and visionaries over the last 5 years, including Umar. And yeah, broadly speaking, I've been helping forward-thinking leaders and companies to create the new and reimagine the old. And as Umar mentioned, although we've got a lot of industry experience outside of mining, we genuinely believe mining is the next frontier that everybody's sleeping on. So I'll throw it over to Anna.
Yo, Anna, yeah, ladies first.
Thanks, Umar. Umar, Varun, thank you for inviting me to this event. I'm glad to be here. Happy Friday, everyone that's joined. My name's Anna Dallaire, and I've worked in the junior mining space for over 17 years. I've worked in compliance, investor relations, most current to today's topic, marketing and communications. I currently hold senior leadership roles at a public company called Forte Minerals. I work for a private investment firm, and I run my own digital marketing company called Phull Vision. So my experience is very mixed, but it also gives me a really rare perspective. And what I see almost all the time is that juniors are totally neglecting branding and marketing. And in 2025, in this digital world, not being visible online makes you invisible to millions of investors, dollars, and losing on opportunities on a daily basis. So I'm basically just hoping to share the challenges that I see and frame them to opportunities for the companies that are willing to adapt. So like I said, I'm happy to be here, and I look forward to the conversation with the rest of the panelists.
Amazing. Let's give the baton to Jim now.
Hi, everyone. Very nice to be here, and thanks, Umar and Varun, for the invite. My name is Jim Caravalla, CEO of Offworld, based in Pasadena, California. Offworld is dedicated to establishing mining, construction, and industrial operations robotically and autonomously on Earth and into the solar system. We believe the next generation of industrial robotic workforce is coming, and it's here within the decade. And at Offworld, we're building swarms of robots of different species built around a common platform that can undertake end-to-end mining, underground and open pit, without humans getting in harm's way. We believe this is the future, and taking mining from the brute force, cut the leg off 19th and 18th century medicine to the laparoscopic mining model, where we're just extracting ions of metal out of low-grade ore, is the way to go. And I believe we can reduce the cost of mining down to 2 orders of magnitude of what it is today by being smart and precise about what we're doing.
Amazing. Sean, give us your intro.
Hey, folks. Thanks for having me, by the way, Umar. And by the way, English people always sound so dang smart.
Thank you.
Like, no matter what say.
We do try, but
it's you'll never get somebody from Nova Scotia on an international GPS voice. I guarantee you that. All right. Anyway, thanks for having me. I've been in the mining space for about 20 years now. I've been a senior officer, registered insider of a few different explorers, some developers, and even producers. And I really like you folks. Umar came to me through a friend of mine named Sean Heinrichs. He's the CEO of 1911 Gold. He said, "Have you ever heard of this Umar guy?" He said, "I don't know what he's really up to." And I said, "All right, I'll go check him out." And so we found out that myself and Umar and Anna were cut from a very similar cloth. And I'm telling you, if any of my CEO friends out there are listening to this, if you don't listen up, you're going to get eaten alive. Because
you're going to get eaten by the sharks, as they say.
Yeah, you are. Because today, in today's world, I'm telling you something, we are the most connected digitally, as you folks talk about it, but we're the most disconnected human-wise in history. And and so it's I'm really excited to see what your points of view are in that we have here. But as Anna said, there is a major disconnect right now between mining companies and their own existing shareholders, let alone trying to attract new ones. The last little thing I'll share, I help a very wealthy friend of mine. She holds over 700 positions in various mining companies. And she's 80 years old now. She wanted to decide, hey, what should I keep? What should I sell? And I said, well, why don't we reach out to them all? Now, I didn't know there was going to be 700. So we did a little base case of 100 of them. And I called 100 exactly IR people out there that she held positions in, some of them over $1 million. And only 2 of them called me back.
Oh my God.
Wow.
So if you folks that are listening to this, if you don't start listening to your shareholders, you're toast. Just this last 2 days, I spent 2 days with Benoit LaSalle. He's the CEO of Aya Gold and Silver, master storyteller. And I went to the Tim Hortons Children's Foundation golf tournament with him. That's why I look like a dang lobster. And it's just, and he's one of the very few people that gets it. But what really surprised both Benoit and I is while we're out, walking around all these Tim Horton owners and their bankers and all that, he said he had people walking up to him saying, I knew you were coming here because I follow Sean.
Yeah.
This is in a little town in Nova Scotia. Benoit's in Morocco and Mexico. So if you don't think people are connected, you're nuts. Right.
Yeah,
so
and
my daughter calls me the dad bod influencer.
I love that, the dad bod influencer.
Because
so that's what I'm going to call you for the rest of the show.
There you go. It'll stick. I look like a lobster today.
But thank you for your interest, Sean. I'm going to move on to John. John, geez, you want to give your intro? Who's that? Crashing around. John, are you there? Oh, well, let me unmute you, John.
Umar, hi. Umar, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, apologies firstly that you haven't got my video. If I turn my video on, it wouldn't make any difference because it's 11 o'clock at night here. I'm in eastern Indonesia on the deck of a boat, and my apologies for not being able to show my face. I'm sharing a boat with 2 others and I don't want to wake them up, so I'm sitting on the deck. My background and what I hope I can bring to the conversation is that I've been in the mining industry for 45 years, working mostly in exploration as a geologist. And through that time, obviously, there have been huge changes in the way that companies address their audiences and their investors. I spent a lot of my career, 30 plus years, working for the largest company, what is now the largest company, BHP, and its predecessors. So I've seen the mining world from the side of a large corporate. And for the last 10 years, I've been working with juniors. So I'm a consultant. I'm a director of a couple of 3 companies. And I work with juniors now. And I'm confronted with the issue that all juniors have as to how to excite investors and reach them and tell the story to the best effect and transform good technical results into interest and share price. So that's my angle.
Thank you very much for your intro, John, and I hope your month long excursion's been good. I know you've been telling me a lot about it. I'm going to move on to Cordy. Cordy, I'm just going to unmute your mic. Go for it. Give us your intro.
Oh yes.
Well, good.
Do you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. You're a bit.
I'm doing
can't hear you too well, but go for it.
All right.
Can you hear us? Cordy?
How's this sound? Is that better?
That's better. Yeah.
Yes. Is the audio better now? Okay,
Yep.
great. So for me, I'm a consultant. I come from the blockchain space. I've been, diving into the gold and mining industry for the past 1.5 years now. I'm just bringing my tech background, my blockchain, Web3 knowledge to the space to innovate it. Because there's a lot of ways to tell a story that has to resonate with Gen Z, with millennials, because they're about a story. They're about finding ways to make this something that's transparent, that's clean, and how can mining actually produce something that's beneficial to society. And that's what I've been helping around with.
Amazing.
And so I'm very excited to see what can be done here. But yes, you guys hear me, right? There's no audio issues.
Yeah, no, we can hear you. We can hear you loud and clear. All
Great,
good.
great.
So now what we'll do is Varun will quickly run. So we'll just set the scene. Varun, if you share your screen, I'll give you access, and you can start running through the pack. We're not here to bore everyone and do 47 pages of slides. We're just going to make it short, sweet, and simple, and we're just gonna go through it. Go for it, Varun.
Awesome, thank you, Umar. Yeah, as mentioned, we don't want another investor deck that puts everybody to sleep right now. However, what we're here to talk about, as Umar mentioned, is the notion of digital strategies for the next generation of retail investors. And we have created a quite comprehensive strategic doc with some blueprints and maps that, as Umar mentioned, at the end of this call, this webinar, shall we say, you can get in touch with himself and myself via LinkedIn, and we can give you a copy. But what we're here to talk about is also these multiple inflection points and this notion of the wealth transfer that's occurring and going to occur. And without going into too much detail, we'll keep it pretty high level. We've gone through a lot of detail, our backgrounds and how we kind of approach any type of new product development, marketing communications, or reimagining business models. We always look at it from a behavioral science perspective. We go really deep into the psychology of the consumers that it's intended for. And one of the things that we've done, which you guys get access to, we've got experience in banking and wealth management, but there was nothing out there for like retail investors in terms of the segmentation. So we've developed that for you guys, a framework on understanding what does the landscape of retail investors look like and their associated psyche. But we're here also, individuals like myself, Umar, Cody, to talk about the Apple and crypto generation, which is us, which is the retail investors that are pumping so much money into things such as crypto and tech stocks, and instances like the GameStop situations and stuff like that was due to retail investors. So yeah, high level, we'll be discussing some of the perception around mining, the misperception around mining as well. And I think that's one of the actual biggest blockers right now that we're seeing.
Like we're sorry to interrupt, Varun. What it is, it's like, we come from the millennial generation, and I've been to plenty of investor, being an investor myself, I've been to plenty of these, mining events, and I don't want to go through and name every single one I've been to, but a lot of people know me. I've sat down with a lot of CEOs. There's a huge disconnect. They don't really understand how, not every CEO, I'm saying in general, they don't really understand the behavior of millennials and Gen Z, and how, that these are the future generations that will overtake, their parents' wealth, the wealth management. And, we're seeing it. There's plenty of information in the deck that shows that, hey, look, like, we're not interested in, small returns in bonds and stocks. We want something exciting. They're looking for big gains. And, there's a huge opportunity in the mining industry to almost like, rebrand, redigitize, and, bring it to a larger, wider audience. Majority of my friends, I can send them I can pick any mining stock at random, send them it, and tell them why I like it. As soon as they look at it, they're like, what, is the website even real? It's designed like it's designed in the 1990s, and they don't really look at let's what's the best way to put it? They don't have time to read drill reports. They really want to get to know the CEO. They're used to people like Elon Musk, people who have huge personalities, who know how to sell a vision. And you know what? We've got one here, Jim. Like, as soon as me and Jim got on a call, I told Jim, I was like, my hands are shaking because you know what, you're the first one in this industry to make me feel a type of way, and you're exciting. And I've, you know, sat down with over 50 CEOs, and I'm like, you know, the way you tell a story is so compelling with so much conviction. It just really excites me. And I'm like, you know what? Jim knows how to sell the story, and that's what's important, and that's what we're trying to do here. Sorry, back to you, Varun.
No. I think that's a very relevant point. Like, you know, just gonna like zig a little bit here, but you know, you look at even Offworld, Jim's company. Like, it took us so much by surprise when we came across it, and we're like, oh, this is interesting. This is not what we're used to. What we've been analyzing for the last 3 months in significant detail to create this pack, and then the conversations that we've had with him as well. But you know, I'll let you guys kind of check that out after. But I'm totally aligned with Umar on that. It's, you know, I think a big task is really about reframing it, mining juniors as a whole, to the benchmark of what retail investors care about. You know, it's almost treating them like consumers. And over time, as with anything, you know, Umar used to send me juniors. He's like, you should invest in this. I'm not sure I want to, dude. Like, the YouTube links are broken. What are these drill results? I have no idea. But you know, I think that's just a task that we're setting out to do, and the conversation that we're having. But yeah, sorry to deviate, guys. But you know, on that topic, you know, something that I think everybody should pay a lot of attention to when they do get the pack is what we've ended up doing is based on our own experiences, leveraging the community from Ride the Pig, and speaking to a lot of individuals inside and outside of mining. We've essentially developed what the existing state of mining looks like from a retail investor experience. So what they're doing, what they're feeling, and what they're thinking. And there's a lot of friction points. And then I guess some of the other things that we ended up doing, you know, just to deviate slightly, is, you know, we really looked at it holistically, both front stage, and when I say front stage, is what the investor experience is, but also backstage. What we're referring to backstage is not mining operations itself, but more so the commercial operations, right? What does that look like? Because in order to have a great customer experience, operationally, the people, the process, and the platforms need to work seamlessly together. And that only helps that front stage experience. So once again, what we ended up doing also was going into significant depth. And, you know, this is actually about how mining can move, juniors especially. It's about unifying those different, you know, silos, departments, and treating it, you know, our exposure to a lot of tech startups and product companies is there is a removal of silos. There's multidisciplinary departments and teams. And, you know, we've taken the approach of looking at the commercial operations from, yes, the front stage, but, you know, how does the IR team and department work together with marketing and comms? What are the exec leadership doing? What are general operations, compliance? How does that actually fit into mining ops and the geotechnical side as well? So yeah, once again, what we ended up discovering was over 200 gaps or opportunities, like we like to reframe. And yeah, I think that's just delightful to see that there's.
Thank you for that, Varun.
Change. Sorry.
Thank you for that, Varun.
Right.
Look, let's get straight into it. You know, as I said earlier, ladies first. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, Anna, if you don't mind. So first of all, Anna, let's get straight into it. Why isn't the old playbook for you know, press releases enough for today's investors? Like, you know, we see this time and time again in the junior space, a bit less in I'd say the majors. You know, they have a lot of content. You know, I guess their budgets are better. It's about road shows, and you know, where's the disconnect? And you know, like, what do you think about this? Why is it like, you know, they just, all they care about is, hey, we got a press release coming up, and then when you look throughout the, you know, the press releases, they've probably only done like 5 press releases in a year. And that's what
I mean, it's interesting. I started in IR back in 2006. And back then, when we put out a press release, we had to be in the office pre-market. So here on the West Coast, we'd be in at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. And we were calling out all day. We were calling brokers, investor lists. So we were dialing and like talking to people directly about the news release on the day that it went out. And then if it was a big release, we do these massive mailers of flyers that went out to like millions of people, or take like newspaper place ads, or be like in magazine, like financial or industry magazines. Now, obviously, no one's doing that. I don't actually know of any IR people that are actually calling out anymore. And so obviously, because the way information moves has changed. Oh, do you still call, Sean? Are you still calling people? Oh, you're on mute. But yeah, so I mean, I don't know a lot of IR people that actually do, 100 calls in a day. So the information moves differently, but the mindset, from what I can tell, hasn't changed. Now, the press release obviously has its place. It satisfies the regulatory requirements. It delivers all the technical information to the people that need that and want that. And it hits all, the trading desk platforms. But that's not really how investors are getting their information anymore. They're sourcing it from other ways. And I'm shocked that in 2025, we still need to talk about social media is one of main ways that people are getting their information, because it's been around for a long time, but it's still 100% underutilized with all of the issuers. And I probably meet with 3 to 5 different CEOs a week for different meetings, and I've yet to see one company that's using it properly.
Okay. I fully agree with that. Anyone got any follow-ups for Anna? Sean. All right, let me unmute you, Sean. One sec. There we are. Unmute. Go for it, Sean.
Anna, you hit it right on the head regarding the press releases and that. People generally don't go to them for their information, quite honestly, because they confuse the bejesus out of people.
Yeah.
Like I've actually called CEOs back numerous times that I actually do work for. And I'll say, listen, I've been at this for like 20 years, and it took me an hour to figure out how to explain it to the people I'm going to reach out to.
Yeah.
Like, if I don't get it, good luck.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Yeah. And I mean, depending on how deep we want to get into it, there's ways of repurposing that press release. Like, I think one press release can be anywhere between 5 to 10 digital assets, and it can be repurposed in many ways and simplified. Because a lot of people will say like, oh, but I put it out last week. It doesn't matter. You could put it out 100 times and you still haven't reached the masses. So, I mean, we might not go through the minutiae of that today, but it could be repurposed into videos, carousels, articles. Like, there's just so much you can do with that one press release.
Yeah, you can definitely, build things up, rather than just say we're smashing out a press release and everybody look what we've done. But look, moving on, I want to ask Jim a question, because he's got loads of fans in the comments. We've got Jim Caravella is a rock star. We're seeing that. We say W's in the chat for Jim, everyone. So Jim, is mining ripe for disruption? My first question.
From a technology application and supply chain perspective, it is completely low-hanging fruit when you consider the level of technologies we have access to today in automation, robotics, high density power systems, and let's say fragmented architectures of swarming robotics, such as what Phull is building. And when you think about it, if we take a step back, just listening to the conversation previously, I kind of think we're in the 18th or 19th century in terms of mining. With all due respect to the great work being done, the great innovations that are being attempted, we're still working incrementally at the problem. And think about this for a moment. We're breaking up and moving tens of millions of tons of waste rock with grades sometimes way less than 1%, putting in whole percentages of our civilization's energy consumption into crushing and breaking rock, and working in that paradigm, which seems to me crazy. And we have the opportunity with the right implementations today to use energy to break up grain boundary bonds, turn a hard rock into soft rock, weaken the energy requirements, take advantage of the weak tensile strengths of rock, and separate the ions of metal as close as possible to the original rock face as you can, i.e. in situ processing, and just bring out ingots of metal in treasure bots. Now, we are less than 10 years away from demonstrating that entire end-to-end paradigm.
Wow.
And that would give us a 1 to 2 order of magnitude reduction in energy, environmental impact, and cost of mining. Imagine what we can do with that. So from that perspective, the industry is very much low-hanging fruit and ripe for picking. Now it's the case of market adoption.
Yeah.
Are the miners and the back end of the supply chain ready to adopt that when you've got so much vested interest with the big miners, with the OEMs, with short-term cycles in mining, which is very incentivized on the monthly, quarterly, and annual basis? How do you get that 5 to 10 year look ahead so that we can turn this industry around in the biggest way for the first time in 1,000 or 2,000 years? And I think we are within the decade that we do that.
Amazing. Does anyone have a follow-up for Jim on the panel?
But just go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, things are definitely getting interesting these days with mining. For me, I've been pursuing in-ground, assets, right? So the whole thing about why we extract, right, is because that is to move it somewhere else to have it in a vault, right? Most of the time, like in my case, the gold industry, which is what I'm more familiar with, as in a lot of times they move the gold out somewhere where it's just to stay where it's at, but they move it to put it into another, into a vault to sit there. So thing about this is like, how do you change these ecosystems where, hey, there's no need to move some certain, like gold could just stay in the ground, right? Some gold don't have to be extracted, and certain times they do more harm than they help the local economies, right? So on my end, I'm currently part of an AI alliance as well, but I've been trying out pilots now. So for me, I was invited to Dubai last month, and by the president of this African country, Central African Republic. They try basically tokenize their entire country, which is very interesting. The first country to do so. But it just shows you the power of what you could do when you bring tech into this, because yes, you can tokenize. And for those who don't know what tokenizing means, is that it's just bringing these assets together where other people could invest in it, and it's not just limited to certain small pools. So yes, you can tokenize and make people invest in certain assets to create more liquidity. That's one problem, but the other problem is finding a way where the story makes sense, where it becomes regenerative, right? So for me, is to build regenerative economies where some of these assets could just sit there and you bring more value to the local economy, because now people could just have an opportunity to, because I've seen it from Ghana. I'm involved mostly in the Ghana industry because I love what they're doing with gold bod, but I want to improve that. But the thing about this is that a lot of mining leads to pollution, right? So by having in-ground assets, as in like you're basically able to tokenize in-ground assets, you're providing a way where you're reducing pollution and creating a story where it makes sense to Gen Z. And that's the stories that will basically bring them onto this new industry. Not new industry, this old industry that wants to actually innovate and
Cheers,
draw their
Cody.
attention.
I think we had a LinkedIn users who had a great follow-up question for Jim. What do you think we could focus on for accelerating that adoption?
Yeah, well, I think the tier one and two miners are very much focused on huge supply chains and very encumbered processes, engage with the OEMs in how they mine, both open pit and underground. And that's a very large ship to steer. The opportunities we have when we're trying to radically disrupt, if we're talking about radical disruption, what's the easiest on-ramp? The easiest on-ramp is end-of-life mines. So there are hundreds, perhaps thousands of end-of-life mines, especially underground mines, that maybe have 20, 30, 40% of their ore left untouched in natural pillars with softer rock. It can go up to 60%. You send robots in, take them down to the end, and then retreat mine those pillars. We can take out another 30, 50% of the original ore that was sitting there, change the risk paradigm of the permitting of the mine, and reap millions of dollars of extra value that wasn't planned in those ore bodies. It's a win-win-win situation for all stakeholders, because the municipality or the government sees new revenues and tax revenues coming out of that. We've got models to share the benefits of that next lease of life mining, robotic mining, with the local community. So they share in the wealth rather than just some ancillary income. They genuinely share in the wealth as SPV shareholders. The unions love it because no people will go in the mine, and we will educate local peoples in robotic maintenance, operations, programming artificial intelligence, and bring them into the fourth industrial revolution. So this is a way that that mining can, especially with millennial generation leadership, can go from what is today a 19th century architecture with 20th and 21st century technologies into a 21st century architecture that not only redefines how we do mining, increases profit by at least an order of magnitude, but changes the entire paradigm and social contract with the local communities that sit on the wealth, yet never really see the benefit of it to the same extent that the downstream part of the value proposition sees. And I think this is a perfect combination opportunity that we're attempting to build. It's not easy. There's a lot of uphill struggles and headwinds, especially when you're breaking paradigms. But boy, this is an opportunity worth going for.
It is a huge opportunity, and Jim, your forward thinking and what you're doing with Offload is absolutely incredible. I just want to follow up with John. John's very, familiar, with the robotics side of the industry. John, what are your thoughts?
Well, the first thing I would say is that large companies are very conscious about cost control. And if there were anything out there that were immediately obvious to reduce their costs, that is the low-hanging fruit for their profit line. And so they really are focused on ways to reduce costs. If that's in comminution is one of that's breaking down rock to liberate the valuable elements in it or minerals in it. That's one of the biggest costs in most operations. And a lot of focus has gone into that for many, many years, centuries, decades. But yes, there are some potential new technologies that could change that paradigm. It's difficult to say whether that would be applicable to many of the things that are being mined today, but for some it might be. So robotics for me is an area of great interest. And you mentioned pillar robbing in closed mines. I think that is definitely an area where robots replace human activity to reduce safety concerns. That's definitely an area for investigation. But I think if you look at the greater context of the whole industry, how does robotics apply, or how may it apply in the future? It's going to probably be in deep underground mines where rock pressures and temperatures are really inhospitable, and human beings are going to increasingly find it difficult to operate safely. That is a relatively small part of the total mining industry, but a growing part, because as minerals get scarcer, we have to go looking for them deeper. So that trend will continue. So those are a couple of thoughts.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Sean. What are your thoughts on future of mining? Bringing in AI, robotics, and how things. Also even from an investor standpoint, like what I'm seeing is, as an investor, as someone who's really interested in, looking for forward-thinking leaders and companies. One thing that does excite me is, hey, how can AI technology as a whole really, push the right companies forward? And how do you feel about how these companies are adopting these new initiatives? Because I'm not seeing a lot of movement, if I'm honest. Especially the junior space. In the majors, yeah, definitely. You got Rio Tinto, BHP, all the big guys. They're ready. They're really thinking about this forward thinking. But juniors, I guess it's more exploration. So, what are your thoughts?
I think for starters, when you're dealing with the big majors, you take, if a company's got multiple properties around the world and multiple sub properties at their big properties, they're able to take the risk without anybody even noticing that they're taking the risk. So if you have a company that has 35 mines around the world, yeah, sure, let's try it. Throw me a couple of robots, we'll give it a shot. But I think with not just the juniors, I hate to say it, most of them are knuckleheads. Like, it's just they'll do whatever the next knucklehead is doing, myself included. No sense, pussyfooting around. But as far as the single project companies, good luck. Until you have some, and I'm 57, a lot of my friends are retiring. Until those dinosaurs are gone, you're pushing water uphill.
Yeah.
Because I don't know a single 60 plus CEO in mining. Listen, they're still putting geophysics on the front page of their freaking press releases. Do you really think they're going to take off the robot dog? That shit ain't happening. Right?
Sean, I love it.
I share a birthday with Don Cherry. Google him. Right, the only way I know how to be. But I think the next generation moving forward will do some really cool things with the gyms of the world. I'm going to throw something out there. One thing I am wondering is, can you imagine? There's a lot of narrow vein gold deposits out there. If you could have some robotic mining equipment that could play in those narrow vein operations, that would be a bloody game changer. It really would. Where you didn't have to worry about, can the equipment fit? Well, let's build equipment that does fit. And that's where I think this could be really cool.
Well, your intuition's spot on, Sean. We actually deployed autonomous excavation robots that are 70 centimeters high.
Now you're talking. That's you're going to have real interest in.
Yeah, and they go right into the narrow vein reefs, of platinum and other veins.
Wow.
Jim, I might have a client for you. We'll talk after this.
Amazing. Cody, go for it. You gonna speak? Oh, you're on mute. Well, let me unmute you. Sorry, Cody. Go on, go. Let me unmute you. Okay. There you go.
Is it better now? I think it's off mute.
Yeah.
Jim, I have a question for you, right? So your robots, speaking of AI, one of the issues with AI is the ability to just predict its environment that is very unpredictable. Like, how is it able to monitor its space, its location on the ground? Like, how do you get that data information, that labeling to actually make that make sense?
No, great question there, and there are multiple ways of doing this. We have a lot of closed loop sensing on our robots, and I think generally most robot systems will do that. Today we're using in the generative AI field, we're using a lot of large language models. What we're working on developing at Offworld are large world models with sensory networks that actually learn around the robot. So each robot is its own edge server and its own data center, working collaboratively with other robots in that environment in line of sight. So between squads of robots, you have a lot of line of sight rich communication in a mesh network. That enables comms and GPS denied environment operations so that you don't have to have human operators at the surface or back at HQ in any way controlling the robots. We have a lot of storage on the robots, a lot of processing power, and then a lot of at the edge capability to learn and to sense. And putting all of that together, you effectively have robots that start to become, not in a sentient sense, but in an environmental, physical sense, aware of their surroundings, to the point that they can distinguish between ore and waste rock, that they can identify inclusions, and that they can make decisions for changes in rock hardness and other anomalies that may occur. Right now, we're not at the level of intelligence, speed, or capability that a number of human operators would be able to operate at underground. But we are getting there, and we are at the point, I believe, right now, where we're beyond the economic threshold of profitability. And each year, the capabilities of these robots are only improving, and each year we get less and less young men and women wanting to go down in the mine and do the 19th century con-ops of mining. Let's get this to the 21st, 22nd century style of mining, where we're deploying robots, take people out of harm's way, and use the same paradigm so that we can start building mines on the moon, into the solar system, and expand humanity out to the stars. That's where our ultimate passion lies at Off-World, hence the name. And it just happened that Earth was the first planet we found with customers that could pay. So we chose that one.
Got it. That's a great answer. And about satellite, sensory, like, do you use any of that to track anything with to help the robots, or just the robots just going down there underground and getting information?
So I mean, satellite data, hyperspectral, optical, narrowband optical, hyperspectral, and other tomographic type and synthetic radar can all be valuable. The data sets can all be valuable. Mm-hmm. The real challenge today on the exploration side is what can you do to optimize and reduce the time of core drilling? So core drilling is extremely expensive, it's extremely slow and cumbersome. Between satellite data and core drilling, there's a huge gap of intelligence and information. Deploying hundreds of surveyors, actually, if you kind of see in my background, one of our surveyors on a copper mine, these autonomous, all-terrain, rugged devices can use hyperspectral, LIBS, LiDAR, and other sensors to really help characterize, down to elemental analysis, what's likely to be in the ground. And that, combined with satellite data, is where you can start to reduce your requirements for core drilling, compress the exploration timescale, and what we hope is likely cut that exploration phase in half in terms of time and schedule.
Okay, that's interesting. It's very, 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 very interesting. And the data sets, how do you keep the data? How do you monetize, or how do you track the data sets? Is there something that you use to, like, provide data sets?
I think this is where the huge opportunity is before us, because we're used to securitizing assets to generate the project finance where we can. With the resolution of sensing that we have, with our ability to actually bring on the field of touchless mining, where we're just using energy to break up the rock, minimize the rock strength, and then prod the rock to just let it crumble, we can effectively packetize the measurement of the rock in situ, both hyperspectrally and with LIBS sensors, down to whatever resolution you want, centimeter level, meter level, and not only securitize that, but basically tokenize it. And then take that token of data of the ore in the rock face and let the mineral that is in that rock carry on that tokenized journey all the way to product and delivery. Now, that level of data integrity and resolution, if we can genuinely make that an end-to-end data pathway, is really the revolution that will help us packetize and digitize mining. And I know we'll get a lot of traditional miners that may balk at that kind of paradigm because it is so vastly different from the bulk mining, break everything in sight, just blast hell out of a mountain and move millions of tons of waste where we can, because we're all making money and we're all making bonuses out of it. I know that, as Sean said, it takes the likes of us dinosaurs to get out of the way so that the next generation can really optimize on that value opportunity that exists today. So I think there are huge opportunities, and that's why we got to go bold. This isn't an incremental change, at least from the end that I'm talking about. This is a beyond Uber model of what Uber did to taxis. This is way bigger. This is a paradigm shift of how we build civilization.
And Jem, I love this. This is definitely going in the right direction. Because my guys I'm part of this alliance. We're Ethical AI Alliance. We have this product where we're able to monetize and secure data sets, right? So that's interesting. We're using that to just have clean data, provide that for. And what we're doing right now is we're working on a pilot. It's going to be in Sierra Leone in Africa, where we're going to use our SAR satellite device that's able to go underground and basically track things down to 3 miles, which is about 5,000 km, 5,000 kilos. And that's interesting because you can get really deep and really a lot of information.
Fantastic.
Yeah, very interesting things going on there.
And so sorry to interrupt there, Cody, but what the final point, as we have a scarcity of open pit mines to be discovered, we don't have a scarcity of mineral. There is more than enough metals and minerals that we can use. The challenge is that they're ever deeper underground. And as the temperatures get hotter, with every kilometer we descend, the temperatures increase markedly. Our robots we're building to withstand these temperatures and operate in hot environments with active cooling systems autonomously deep underground without open pit access. That kind of paradigm is what will liberate as many ore bodies as we want. So the exploration to the 5-kilometer depth with a combination of satellite and ground-based surveyors is the next paradigm. And then to have our robots dig in adits and get real data ground with our sensors. This is so exciting because we can have the most environmentally benign mining boom that we've had in a century with a massive reduction in carbon footprint.
Amazing.
I'm just going to jump in there, guys, just very quickly. And I wanted to take a step back a little bit and appreciate the conversation that's happening right now. From us, Cody, Umar, myself, and many people that are probably watching this, they're finding this very fascinating. The technology-enabled mining with a much more progressive view is what resonates with us, right? As retail investors, as digital natives. But also, I want to put this conversation back towards Anna and Sean. Now imagine, I guess, your investor relations, the type of content, the documentation, when you're sharing this with people. What are your thoughts on, I guess, a more progressive tech-enabled perspective when it comes to mining and communicating that with people that in the industry?
Well, do you want me to start?
I always go ladies first. I'm 57.
Ladies first.
We can take this in many angles, but I think one of the biggest challenges, we all understand that the juniors and the explorers, they have limited funds. And so that's the number one problem. But the lack of understanding or even just want to market and brand and do branding is a real problem. Like I said, I speak with a lot of different CEOs every week, and they still think that, you know, all they need is their website. And a lot of them actually still believe that people go to CEDAR to dig through those documents to do their due diligence. And
No
I
way.
assure you, yes. And Umar, we could talk about, you know, what we think of the websites, but at least they believe that most of them believe you need a website. But they kind of think that it stops there, and we know that that's not the case. And I think you guys touched on it earlier, as that the investors are basically behaving like consumers. So I know when I'm booking a hotel, I'm comparing prices. I go to Instagram to check out the vibe. I'm reading all the reviews before I make a decision. And investors are actually, they are doing the exact same thing when it comes to their investing. So if you've piqued their interest on your website, check, good for you, like you get a gold star. But after that, they're going to Google, they're going to ChatGPT, they're asking about you, and they're definitely going to social media. So if it's a blank slate, if it's boring, they're just moving on, right? And it's really teaching them that it matters. I don't understand. They don't think it matters. But I mean, the stats are there. I think, what is it? 81% of institutional investors have made decisions or gave recommendations based on social media. Like, I don't know, like that says it in itself, right? And 88% of them want any company that they back to have a digital presence. So,
Yeah.
Ron,
Thanks.
you can piggyback on that.
Thank you, Anna. That was amazing. It's so true. You know, me and Anna always have this like once a week call where we're like venting, and we're like, "Hey, how?" You know, I don't even want to go into much detail. We just get on a call and we're just like, "Hey, look, I've had this experience with this market manager, and you know, they just totally don't get it. Like, you know, how the stocks work, how to really attract. Look, if you even look at the statistics, it's like, you know, you compare junior miners to, let's say, the meme stock in, you know, the meme stocks, the meme coins. It's like, you know, they've just got outdone by little guys, you know, people like me in your mum's basement that have overtook, you know, 100x on, you know, the junior marketing cap in total. So it's like, you know, the conversations are happening, the communities are there. And that's what we're trying to build in this industry. But it's like, you know, a lot of the traditional old ways of doing stuff are not working. John, were you gonna jump in?
Well, I was going to comment that the juniors and the lifeblood of juniors is really results and the ability to convert those results into reaching not only your current investors but new investors. Part of the problem that juniors have is that they're constrained by the regulator. So I write press releases. They have to be they have to contain objective geological facts, and you're allowed a certain amount of interpretation on those facts. But as soon as you get into speculative comments about what this could possibly mean in the future, you run into a regulator coming down on you. And if that happens, it turns into a negative experience. So where juniors get support is from relatively independent commentators that pick up those press releases, translate them into more intelligible information to the world in a semi-independent way. But a lot of those people are biased because they're shareholders. So the whole of the transforming of the original information into intelligence and exciting news for potential new investors is an area that needs improvement. And that's my interest, to understand what is it that new investors of a much younger age than me, I'm 68, are looking for when they're looking at investing in mining companies. That excites me because I think there is a large public out there. We're not reaching them for sure. And it might be something relatively simple that can be changed to improve that.
So
Right.
okay, I'll let Sean go.
Before I pass it to Sean, John, you do not look 65.
Me?
Yeah. You look
But
40.
you can't see me, so we'll have to
I've
wait
seen
for
you
the next
plenty of times,
conversation.
John.
Yeah.
I've been on about 100 calls with you, so yeah.
Yeah.
That's all good though. Sean, off to
You
you.
know, I think, John, I'm not honeypotting you. I really like what you said there, and you're right about the regulatory constraints. But there's no doubt about it. Just to be completely transparent, I own a small call center, and we do shareholder outreaches and whatever. Right? We have never had one person ever say they bought a stock because of the geophysics.
Right.
Like, not knocking it, but it just doesn't come up. So in going what you say, John, you're absolutely correct. You need to have that meat in there. You need to have the stuff. You need to have the technical. You need to have the, all the disclaimers, and you need to have the real stuff, because you do have analysts that are reading those press releases. But I just thought of something, and I hope you guys get a kick out of this. I haven't thought it through. I only opened my mouth to change my feet. Right. But I think Anna hit something right on the head. And that is that if regardless of how boring the press release has to be, everybody has a chance at the first paragraph.
Mm.
All right.
Yeah.
So if you're going to put that first paragraph out, and that's all most people ever read, here's an idea. Put out the and I've said this to a lot of CEOs, your tiny quote down in the bottom explains the whole damn press release. Why isn't that the first paragraph?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe underneath the first paragraph, you say, hey, this is what Umar says, that, president's comments. And then right under that, maybe put the links to Anna's stuff, put the links to Umar's stuff, put the links to the social stuff, put that right on the first damn page. Because putting all the technical stuff, if they don't like the first paragraph, they ain't going anywhere else. And I'll tell you something. It's one of my favorite companies is Aya Gold and Silver. I'm doing a fancy plug for my buddy Benoit, right?
We love it. Aya Gold. Let's go.
He's got, let's say 16 or whatever analysts. They all give it a target price of $20. The smartest people you probably ever met in your whole damn life all say this should be $20, but it's trading at 12, 13. So yesterday, in a great big group of Tim Horton owners, all kinds of bankers that came in with their private jets, when Benoit was in the room of that event at Fox Harbor, guess what they all wanted to know? What's Benoit like as a person?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the story that we're missing. And now they're all going to go buy that stock. Likely next week, they'll all start taking positions because he just won the love of the whole damn room. But he won the love of them. Not one of them asked anything. So if really smart stuff sold these things, I hate to say it, if junior mining, if it came down to actual real stuff, nobody would ever buy a single share. They'd stick to something that pays dividends. So they're buying something that has a good story.
Yes.
So
Just
completely.
back on that. First, I want to comment on John about the compliance. I have a background in compliance for pubcos, and there's lots of rules, and I 100% agree that we are handcuffed in many ways. But I also know that I can turn out social media for a client every single day and never run out of stuff to say. So this goes into, the CEO and what Sean is saying. Like, these companies, they're buying in the people. They're not buying, like you said, on the data. They invest in the people. When they meet at conferences, they're like, oh, that guy was really cool. Like, he knows what he's talking about. Like, so they need to be front and center. They need to be showing why they're different. They need to be building relationships and connecting with people online. And there's tons of way of doing that without touting the stock or saying things that are against the rules. Like, an example is, you used to be a geologist in Peru like 20 years ago, and now you're running a public company that's in Peru. Talk about the differences. What's changed?
Talk about the fun stories, jungle adventures.
To talk about. So.
Yep. No, that's good. That's a good comment.
So, John, sorry to jump in there, guys, but I think it's a bit of both, right? I totally agree in stories and being founder-led or CEO-led. That's one of the things that drew us to Jim. It's one of the things that turned my head to mining. Umar's been badgering on for me for years. We should take a look at this. We should take a look at this. Every touch point that I looked at, I dove into it. I was like, it's destructive. It's boring. I don't understand it. Until I heard a couple of CEO stories, not related to the mining operations itself, but them as people, the stuff that should actually be written in a documentary or a TV show type of stuff, right? And that's what really started to turn my head. But at the same time, I would say that, some of the stuff that Jim's doing and kind of conversing about, and where these type of juniors or mining companies are starting to be a little bit more innovative, that also captures my attention, irregardless if of the CEO. I think it's also about how the company show up as well. A brand is bigger than a company, a brand is bigger than the CEO as well. So I think there's a big part of it. It's both sides of the coins, shall I say. And I think just generally, what me and Umar have seen is, you look at consumer-facing brands like Adidas, Under Armour, Nike, all these type of consumer. It's not about the CEO, right? I couldn't even tell you who the CEO of Nike is right now. I believe in the brand, the company, more than anything in that respect. But then, when you look at mining as a whole, it's extremely outdated. It's not progressive how it is looking, how it's perceived, how it communicates. And I think that's one of the things as well. You want to have CEOs be more progressive, be out there, be more human, be more personable, and share the stories. But at the same time, I would say companies should start building a brand, should actually, I look at this notion, it's not growth for the growth's sake, but it's innovating, and the growth will lead from that as well. Sorry, Cody, were you about to jump in there?
Yes. So I saw that Hayden's message. He says that tech people have to have storytelling abilities, and that's kind of wrong in my opinion, because I've seen, for me, I'm not a dev, so I just got technical and I had to learn it. I started as a creative who liked telling stories, then I got into the tech world, right? So I'm seeing from different points of views, and I noticed that devs are the ones that have a hard time telling stories. So tech people should not be storytellers. That's not their strong suit. The strong suit is finding a way for the regular people to tell their stories, and that means empowering them, right? That's what succeeds, right? So that means now, how do you empower the local miners or the local farmers to change, to be like, okay, I feel empowered, and then that means creating things that are bottom up, right? So right now, that's something that I mentioned when I was in Dubai. I was like, okay, we want to tokenize assets. That's a good idea, but it's not completely perfect, but it's a good starting point, right? Like, hey, you could tokenize assets and people can get involved. Yes, but how about those that don't have money to buy into these assets, right? So how do you create value for those people that don't have any money to, basically get involved with these assets? It creates the same problem all over again. Basically, it's stocks 2.0, right? Just the same systems all over again in a way where it's faster and probably just as bad. So an idea that I proposed was, hey, have you guys ever looked into bartering as a way to empower the people that are from the bottom, and how do they grow from the top? So and it's not a very foreign concept, because we've seen it in Switzerland. We've seen this country called, Sardinia, I believe, this country near Italy. They've applied barter systems as a way to basically empower the locals to just trade their goods and services, as in, like, if you have a certain product, as in your skill set, how does it convert into something that you could trade into and leverage, upward in society? So it's these stories that we have to figure out a way, like, hey, how do we empower these local miners to receive credit for their efforts in a way to live life without being reliant on just cash, right? And that's another thing to think about as well when it comes to just creating a story for these people without being limited to just debt.
Yeah, thank you for that, Cordy. John, did you have a follow-up point for Anna? I think you were about to speak before Cordy.
I was just going to say that branding for mining companies is difficult because we don't sell to end users. There's very few opportunities where you can't wear a Nike, something that has a personal appeal. You consume iron ore, you consume copper every day of the year. The only time I've come across a branding opportunity in my career has been in emeralds, where you can follow an emerald from a mine through a cutting to a piece of jewelry and say, I can show you the entire history of where this came from. So that is one of the exceptions. But normally the products that the mining industry makes get subsumed into unidentifiable end use. Now tracing is coming in, and that's become more important for lower conflict minerals. So that trend is a positive one, I think.
Nice. So anyone have a follow-up question for John, or want to carry on the conversation? Cool.
I have something about regulations, right? Because that's one thing I deal with when it comes to the mining industry. Is a lot of trust issues, right? So, just me doing business when it comes to Ghana and Dubai has been, back and forth. Like, hey, I don't trust this person. I don't trust this person because there's a lot of fraud in the industry. So a way to innovate that as well when it comes to regulations and making people more comfortable is, I'm not sure if you guys know what's going on with the White House and how they want to implement zero-knowledge proof as tech to innovate the industry, not just mining and just the governments in general. What are you guys doing when it comes to zero-knowledge proofs and adding that as a solution for privacy technology to create more trust when it comes to identity? Because that's something that can help bring people who are farmers or just miners, local miners, a way to be part of society without the extra cost of identity, right? That's a way to bring them into the picture. And then now they have other tools to actually be a part of what's going on. And they can they could invest, they could be part of what is happening, but without identity, without a private way to do things, it becomes harder when it comes to this innovation, because now you lack trust. If you lack trust, you can't really promote anything. You can't really have any movement, or you can't really grow your industry in that way. It becomes a problem. And I've been seeing that in Ghana, as in the biggest problem in Ghana is the smuggling and all that, and that's a solution that I've been trying to solve. I sent them a proposal and all that. I'm working on that to make it where it's more transparent and identity is resolved in that way. But that's a great interesting topic that could just go on for hours.
Maybe for the next time. So guys, we're running a little bit over. I just wanted to read a comment from Mark Thomas. He says, I'm really enjoying the conversation. It's been incredibly insightful. I'll show it on screen. It's been incredibly insightful so far. I've come across digital strategy, content production, and investor-facing campaigns for years, especially where storytelling, social media, and brand positioning needs to align. What excites me the most here is the prospects of helping businesses transition from the 20th century boomer era communication models into digital-first strategies that actually resonate with millennial, Gen Z, Gen X, and even Gen Alpha. And I think that's a really good comment for Marcus. Thanks for that. Any more questions? Varun, have you got any more questions before we wrap up?
Got so many questions, so many conversations still to be had.
We could probably go for hours, but it'd end up on like one of the Joe Rogan podcasts, like 3 hours, and then everyone's messaging me like, "Hey guys, it's time to go." But hopefully in the future when we're on YouTube, we'll go for the long ones. Varun, anything else?
No, I would like to just point out an observation. I think even right now, I kind of highlighted it earlier, that the notion of disruption and change, having done so many digital transformation projects, and you look at finance, banking, education, manufacturing, mining is one of those industries, as we've kind of highlighted, that we're all collectively excited about, that can digitally transform, right? But there is a mindset shift required. Sean mentioned earlier, you might have to wait for certain generations or segments to evaporate, politely put, shall I say. But you look at other industries that we've been exposed to and worked with, they've had boomers at the helm as well. So I think there is a conversation to be had, but that conversation needs to be a room of people like us from multi-disciplines, from different generations, and to have these type of conversations. And yeah, that's just kind of what I'd kind of like to kind of paraphrase there more than anything. Otherwise, you're all singing off the same sheet, and we've got people like Jim that are coming in. Incumbents most likely won't be the ones to innovate. It's incumbents paired with the outliers. No pun intended. No pun intended.
Look, it's been a very insightful conversation, and there's going to be many more. This isn't the first or the last. Mining meets digital webinar. You know, we have goals of, you know, taking this to YouTube and, you know, having more insightful one-to-one conversations with forward-thinking leaders. We also, you know, feel like, you know, we can, you know, bridge that gap between different generations. And, you know, hopefully one day we'll host a nice little event where we can bring in, you know, something different. So I'm used to going to events where I'm the youngest there, and I'm 32. And, you know, I want to bring in people who are 18, 19, 20, who are like, hey, look, I'm interested in this. I want to know what mining's about, how does technology impact mining, and, you know, overall, you know, how can we also get involved in this, you know, amazing industry? So
we want vibe coders coming in and solving miners' problems. That's what we want.
yeah, we're vibe coding right now. Me and Varun are always on, like, you know, all these different new, you know, cursor and all these applications saying, hey, what can we make? But, you know, thank you to all the guests, Jim, Anna, Sean,
Thank you,
John, Varun, Cordy. And we'll catch you guys, I'm pretty sure, soon. We'll have another conversation. Sucks that, you know, we ran over an extra 15 minutes, but, you know, I hope everyone's schedules are still good. But any last thoughts? Anyone want to drop in anything? Sean, go for it.
Sean. Jim, I can't wait to introduce you to Sean Heinrichs at 1911 Gold.
Oh, he's a legend.
And I've got a fantastic guy. He's got an open mind. He's a really nice fella, and he's got a narrow vein project. And I think he's got the open mind to potentially, we're all about the regulatory, to potentially give your ideas a shot. All right. So
guys, get your stocks early, guys.
I'll do whatever I can to help. Okay.
Get those stocks early, guys. And yeah, also on a final note, if you the pack, a lot of the discussions that we've had today, the strategy pack's available. Just drop Umar or myself a DM on LinkedIn, and we'll share it with you guys.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you all. Thanks, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Yeah.